Hey, good morning. Welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff here without co-host Chip. He'll be on again tomorrow night. Hey, today is going to be a great day. Why? Because we are going to get into the big sale that is XRP. It seems like it's on sale. It's down 70% from all-time highs. The market has been trending kind of sideways, up, down. XRP, though, seems to be coming down under sub $1 as we speak right now. So hence the thumbnail. But Ripple XRP has the SEC v. Ripple led to faster digital asset adoption, faster digital asset recognition, while stifling the one digital asset that is built as a mechanism to move money all over the world at rapid speeds for fractions of a penny. That is through the XRP ledger. But Ripple building the RippleNet solution, as everybody well knows, utilizing the XRP ledger, utilizing the one digital asset that we're referencing for on-demand liquidity. Now, all of these things happening, obviously the SEC v. Ripple case put a little bit of a handcuff on the price point of XRP, not because SEC v. Ripple, but mainly because the SEC then singled out XRP as a digital asset that they deem to be a security, per our buddy over at the SEC, Gary Gensler, who taught at MIT. So anyhow, so that is kind of the trend, and it has been the trend now for month after month after month. All these things seem to be impacting one another because there's such a hyper focus right now on the digital asset space. There's a hyper focus on needing some sort of regulation, whether it's coming from the SEC and Gary Gensler, who believes that 99% of all digital assets are securities, or if it comes from supporters like Congressman Tom Emmer, who we had on the show with us last week, who does not think that 99% of all the digital assets on the market are securities, and thinks the exact opposite. And there's many in that camp, and there's many around the world. And one thing we've seen all over the world is that we are achieving regulatory clarity country by country by country. And everywhere you look, there are countries that are talking about central bank digital currencies. And then there's many that are referencing stable coins that are built in the blockchain. Then are others that are adopting Bitcoin. And there's others that are trying to figure out how they can use the XRP ledger to build their digital currency. There's some that are trying to use the Stellar Foundation, others that are looking in every direction. And this discussion has moved from like a year ago, where it could be in concept, to where it's actually happening as we speak right now. So make sure you guys go grab your cup of espresso. I've got mine right here. That's good stuff. So get ready, because we have a lot to cover and we've got a short time to do it in. And we are going to kick this thing off right about, let's see, hang in there, hang in there. How about right now?
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.
I hit the wrong one. That's hilarious. All right, let's try this again. You guys ready? Here we go. By the way, that was just a rollout of our outro. If you guys haven't seen it yet, here we go. Let's hit this one.
Welcome to On the Chain.
There we go. That is more like it. So what's good, you guys? Throw in a shout out. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from. Oh, look at that. Hey, pull myself up on YouTube over here. I just want to make sure the audio is crisp, make sure everything's good. I think I've got a little bit of a lag over here. There we go. I got it to work. I was getting a little bit of a lag on the views and the comments. So give a shout out where you guys are tuning in from. We do have people that tune in from all over the world here on the chain. So whether you're drinking your espresso right now, or maybe you're drinking your espresso after dinner, We have you guys all right here with us on the chain. So we got New York, we've got Pennsylvania, and we've even got the digital nomad investor tuning in from Thailand. So we got holy moly already drinking beer. Why? Because it's 11 o'clock at night. So we got Ted coming in from the Philippines, the King over in Australia, and then we've got Crypto Popo over in Daytona Beach. How exciting is that? And then on his way to Fort Lauderdale. So that's even cooler. So, all right. Rob over in Toronto. Hey, before we get into, since we've got some Canadians in the house with us today, and before we get into some of the tweets that I pulled up already we had John Deaton putting out some tweets. We've got the SEC stuff that we want to get into. Bernard from Luxembourg. But I wanted to, for all those followers that we have tuning in from Canada, and I thought this is kind of a nice place to start. Why not? So check this out. This is, you guys know that in Canada, they have something called a Loonie, and then they have something called a Toonie. Now, the Loonie is their dollar coin. The Toonie is their $2 coin. Well, over here we go to, this is on CoinDesk, and I thought this was interesting because this is referencing what Canada needs. What does Canada need more than anything? More than anything, Canada needs a Loonie-linked digital currency. This is what the policy experts are referencing right here. So we've got the Loonie, imagine. So a Loonie stablecoin. So policy think tank CD Howe Institute sees the Canadian dollar-linked stablecoins issued by the Bank of Canada becoming attractive to Canadians by making them convertible into cash. Now, the one thing that these big think tanks all over the world are realizing and identifying is that digital assets, whether it's a stable coin or a digital asset, like maybe a Bitcoin or an XRP or an XLM or a Matic or what have you, the list goes on and on, moves very relatively quickly compared to cash. So Bitcoin is still moving quicker than cash. Might be a little more costly. Ethereum moves quicker than cash, very costly with the gas fees. So one thing that the policy think tanks are looking at is they look at these digital assets. That's why they're trying to create these central bank digital currencies. They believe that since it's digital, that it fits into the narrative of this asset class. And people will also then believe, since you have these smart think tank groups and policy groups out of the governments, that if they roll out these central bank digital currencies, that yes, in fact, all of it is also going to be kind of a seamless transition. But the one highlight here, when we think about a stable coin versus a central bank digital currency, is that one key term in CBDC, which is centralized. So never forget that. But here, I find what's interesting, get rid of that pop-up. Let's get rid of these. So here it says the Bank of Canada should issue a central bank digital currency that can be converted into a Loonie, the colloquial term of the Canadian dollar. Hey, we already said that. As cryptocurrencies grow in popularity, now this is this think tank institute, the CD Howe Institute, is saying we recognize the fact that cryptocurrencies are getting popular. Well, in that case, you know what? The Bank of Canada needs to step up their game. What do they need to do? They need to issue a CBDC, right? But it's not just any CBDC. Why? Because they want it to be converted back into a Loonie. So it has to be converted. Now here it says Canadian dollar-linked stablecoins could be attractive to Canadians by making them convertible into cash issued by the Bank of Canada. Now they think that that's what we need here. All right, let's highlight that. Ensuring that stablecoins are well designed and regulated from business conduct, competitive, operational, privacy, and prudential perspectives. So this is getting interesting, right? This is over in Canada. A stablecoin is a type of cryptocurrency whose value is tied to an outside asset, such as the US dollar or gold, to stabilize the price. Okay, let's highlight this. So again, now we're talking about Canada and this think tank in Canada talking about setting up a stable coin that is then transferable back into fiat currency that is regulated by the central bank. So we're not just talking about a straight central bank digital currency that has nothing to do as a cryptocurrency or on the blockchain. They are actually referencing and with this idea of creating an actual stable coin. Now, who knows what ends up happening, though, is they discuss this and then they look at the rest of the world and they say, well, why don't we just have a digital currency and then that's it? And all of a sudden, we're just going to have a digital Loonie and we don't have to transfer it back into anything, which is kind of like the digital dollar or the digital yuan or the digital ruble or rupee or whatever it might be, right? Indirect CBDC. Now, such a feat by the Bank of Canada will require any potential stablecoins to be well designed and regulated to make them attractive to Canadians. Now, all those Canadians that are in the audience and listening, would you feel that if the Bank of Canada creates it, is that going to make it more attractive to you to then want to get a stable coin, a Loonie stable coin, right? Converted back to the Loonie. The digital asset, the digital currency should also be issued in token form with decentralized technology for settling transactions. Look at this. Now, to me, this is really interesting because this is one of the first times that we're seeing this reference. Now this is coming from a think tank. This isn't necessarily coming from the Bank of Canada directly, right? It's coming from a think tank up in Canada. Now, what's interesting about this is they're noting the idea that it should be decentralized in nature, meaning it's using the decentralized technology, using blockchain technology, utilizing and building a stable coin based on the similar construct of the USDC or USDT or one of the others that are also then, pegged back to a dollar. And then there's also one pegged to the yen. But this idea that they want to create one that's pegged back to the Loonie, but then is also somehow orchestrated by the Bank of Canada. So the Bank of Canada, this foray from the Bank of Canada, stepping into the blockchain technology, building out their stable coin based on blockchain, not just a CBDC. So here they go again. Look at this. Our preference is for an indirect CBDC. One that is allowed to pass over the balance sheet of payment providers, mimicking cash banknotes on the Bank of Canada's balance sheet. So it would be pegged and tied back to and changed back into the Loonie. Now, indirect. So versus a direct. If it's direct CBDC, like we're seeing, like the digital yuan is a direct digital currency to replace fiat. Here, they want it to be indirect. And I find it's an interesting concept for Canada to want to adopt it from this perspective to make it more pleasant, more palatable. The authors also highlighted that such adoption may incentivize private sectors to introduce Canadian dollar-linked stablecoins by enabling convertibility to cash to take place digitally without relying on physical banknotes. So this is an important statement also. The fact that they're thinking through this process, they want to incentivize the private sector to launch additional Canadian-linked stablecoins. So not just the one. It looks like they're even thinking that, hey, we can go outside of just the central bank, the Bank of Canada. It would go beyond that. So you'd have private sector also, because one thing that they're identifying with the USDC is that, or the USDT, is that it has really become like a mode of transaction on a global scale, and recognized on a global scale on all these different exchanges as the primary asset to change in and out or quickly move from, or to settle back into. If you want to move out of a digital asset and move back to a stable coin, there's a lot of exchanges, obviously, that are either, tying the exchange back to a USDT or pairing it back to a USDC. Now, here it says on February 25th, Canadian bank VersaBank said it plans to launch a stablecoin VCAD, which will be pegged to the Canadian dollar. So here's a bank in Canada coming up here in February that plans to launch a stablecoin. So now Canada is having a completely conversation than our buddies over at the SEC with Gary Gensler, who's trying to create this notion that stable coins are the stable value coin, or a stable coin being a security. So up in Canada, this whole idea of digital currency could actually change the mode and facilitate how easily or rapidly money is moved in and around Canada and out of Canada or into Canada. But it's a different concept, right? So here we're looking also that Canada is looking at the landscape and saying, from a competitive perspective, maybe they need to do things different than what the US is promoting. Maybe they need to do things different than this idea that we need to turn everything into a security. So Gary Gensler, everything needs to be security driven. Canada, hey, you know what? Maybe that's not the right approach. Maybe we need to look at how some others around the world are orchestrating this and change the conversation, change the terminology. If you can adjust the conversation and change the terminology, then maybe you have a different outcome. So we don't even know what the outcome is going to be in the US yet, but we do know that, again, going back to what I first opened with, the SEC v. Ripple, that case is more meaningful than most people probably realize, because it is impacting how the government is going to interact with all other digital assets in the US. Now, again, Canada, and based on this policy thing, this think tank, this policy that this think tank has come up with and authored, they are looking at a whole different approach in Canada. And so it's very, very significant, because we're looking at what's going on in El Salvador as they've adopted Bitcoin as a currency. And the IMF has lashed out at El Salvador and warning them for what they're doing. So basically, El Salvador has decided they are going to go about this on their own. They say, hey, you know what? We've discovered a mechanism through decentralization based on adopting Bitcoin as a currency, right or wrong, that is going to allow them to take more control over their own economy. Now, Canada is also realizing that in this day of technology, if you want to stay competitive, have a competitive edge, and or start attracting companies that are going to flee the United States based on this stranglehold on innovation, based on what's going on right now at the SEC, Canada is in a perfect position to start catching the fallout. Now, if Canada can do it the right way, and they can orchestrate things the right way, and they put a policy like this in place just based on stable coins, think about what could happen, over in Canada in general, as more companies decide to flee up into Canada. So here it says the Bank of Canada adopting a digital currency that is convertible into Canadian dollars could usher in a new chapter in how Canadians pay for their goods and services. Now, we also have to reference, and there was a point where coming out of the Canadian government, this is maybe about a year or so ago, they said that digital assets would be a great mechanism to make sure that all Canadians are paying their taxes. So if you can move into a stable coin, you could also make sure that taxes are getting paid, or not taxes, but that you could find a mechanism, I should say, that you can track the ebb and flow of the expenditures of Canadians through the blockchain, and somehow figure out a way, especially if they link the stable coin back to the central bank, maybe there's a mechanism to assure that as they track the ebb and flow of individual Canadian citizens' use of this stable coin, then they can tie it back to taxation. At the end of the day, they want to make sure everyone is paying their taxes. So that was kind of a point that had been brought up. But here it says, Canadians are more likely to favor those stable coins if governments facilitate innovation in the payments world so Canadians can benefit from ongoing advances in payment systems and crypto technology, and the purchasing power of the Canadian dollar is maintained by keeping inflation low. I think this was a key point. I think there are a couple key points here. I'm going to highlight this one in blue. But this is Canadians are, so I don't know. I don't know the mindset of Canadians. I don't know what their thought process is. But I think that if the Canadian thought process is anything like it is here, I think they might favor private entity development significantly more than government. And I don't see how government is facilitating innovation by creating their own stable coins. I think if you let the private industry, maybe if the government allows the stable coin, it doesn't turn it into a security, a regulated security, like Gary Gensler is talking about. Maybe if we're talking more along the lines of allowing the decentralized economy to develop in the crypto space, that would be different. So we're not talking about the government building stablecoin, more private industry building, and maybe from that perspective, if that's possible, because there was a point here where it was right here in this scenario, right here. Oh, hang on, let's get rid of that one. Let me just highlight this one back into blue to tie it back with the end. But the authors also highlighted that such adoption may incentivize private sectors to introduce Canadian-linked stablecoins. So to me, that it's creating this environment. So if Canada's talking about creating an environment, a friendly environment to stablecoin and crypto assets, that's a key point. If the Canadian government is talking about complete centralization of the stablecoin and the digital asset environment, then we're not talking about anything positive. Then we're just back to more of the same, and we're not getting anywhere. So Chip is saying we already have crappy fiat. We don't need a digital equivalent. That's right. So the key point, more government control and overreach. So interesting things, though, especially as they're thinking through this process, right? They're analyzing it. They're trying to figure things out. Stablecoins are not blockchain nor crypto. Canada is more interested in the control aspect of a stablecoin, tracking, censorship. Nobody is clamoring for a government stablecoin, only the government. There you go. That's why we had to tie it back to if they want to roll it out from a private perspective, then, or they want to normalize and allow it, but don't tie it back based on, taking control over the people. 416 said, I would use it if it's backed by the Bank of Canada, it will be backed properly. So I don't know if that's serious or being facetious, but that's good. All right, so let's scroll. Here we go. I like Adam 1066. Margaret Thatcher said the problem with socialism is that eventually you run out of other people's money. So there you go. You can't go on forever. Jim D is saying Biden's insane nominee for currency comptroller Saul Amarova getting nasty pushback from moderate Dems, but Biden is still pushing them to force it through a party line vote. So we know where Brandon stands on things, right? We know that that's not good. All right, let's move over to let's go through this here. We got, it's early Saturday, late night Saturday, someplace in the world. Here we go. So now this is something we brought this up the other day. There's been a lot of discussion over this, and at the end of the day, people have always said, how did the vote at the SEC actually turn out? There's 5 people on the SEC, right? You have the commissioner, and then you've got the chair, and then you have 4 commissioners. So how was the outcome? Who voted for what? And where did Clayton stand in the whole conversation of things? And we've already brought this up, already been referenced, but I like the fact that actually John Deaton has brought this up again, based on Fox Business really solidified in the article that was that we actually reviewed it the other day, the regulatory riddle and investigation into the SEC v. Ripple case and its consequences. And this was just an unbelievably packed article, tons and tons of information. It really long article, but what the one thing that Fox Business was able to get out of this, and one of the things that was said before, is that we have to wait until the SEC v. Ripple case is over to figure out who was where. But Fox Business actually learned directly who was responsible. So the vote was 3-2. 2 voted against. So basically, what this means is that Clayton broke party lines and voted with the 2 Democrats to file the case. And Deaton is saying this supports what I've been saying since day one. Clayton was the key. His motives dictate. And that was filing of the case. So there was definitely a lot of interesting commentary on this. It's almost embarrassingly obvious. My fear is that they will straight up try and gaslight the court, just as they have the American people. Fortunately, I do not think the judges are keen enough to see it and to realize this is about much more than the Howey test. That's XRP Adam. Then we've got Von Redbird said, agreed, Clayton was the key and Hinman was the lock. In my opinion, Hinman set it up for Clayton to continue the preferred treatment of Ethereum, knowing that XRP would steal the show if let loose with a little reward, track the initial ETH purchases, finding all the bad actors. So that's one element. Now, if we go from that, then we go over to Gasperino. So Charlie Gasperino also, highlighted this case, and he said a Fox Business investigation into the biggest issue in cryptocurrency today, which is the SEC v. Ripple. So, and again, this goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. So if everything is really revolving right now about this case, it's all about SEC v. Ripple. Now, this could spur, rapid adoption in the space. And I believe that we've seen more and more rollout in the space for digital asset, almost as a result of this case. It just seems like it's created more energy. It's created more recognition of what's happening, what needs to happen. But here it says, and whether the regulatory deck was stacked against the company and the tens of thousands of investors who hold the XRP digital coin. So Charlie Gasperino referencing the article. And then what I want to really pinpoint here is a comment from CryptoLaw. So CryptoLaw then commented on to this tweet here, and it said, for all those interviewed for this story who can't recall or had no comment, here is a refresher for them on what they said and did before Fox Business called them for the story. And there's a whole video library over here, and we'll get into that. We'll get into that in a minute. But I just find, it's really telling. Everything that's happening, the conversation, just there's so many things that have been, orchestrated through the process. And this video library, holy cow! I mean, we could get in and watch every one of these videos, but just going through a timeline that CryptoLaw put together over here. I'm going to slide this over. This was actually put together on November 16th. Let me pull this over. Hang on, I'm not sure if I'm sharing. I'm going to unshare. Hang on, let me unshare, and then let me share again so I can add it with. Whoops, we don't want a video file. What's going on here? Oh, look at that. We can do slides now. They just added a new feature. Very cool. Okay, we need audio. So let's share this. There we go. Let's we're going to do a little bit of audio. We'll see if we can grab, some of this. It's going to be kind of interesting here because let's see. Let's add this to the stream. So this is CryptoLaw. This is the video library that they had put together. Look at this. The SEC has repeatedly insisted it has provided clarity to investors on precisely how it determines whether a digital asset is a security. Therefore, subject to its regulation or not, however, it is nearly a universal perception among digital asset investors and blockchain project developers that the SEC provides no clarity whatsoever, and its public statements and actions have only generated market confusion. In turn, this has led to what many have called regulation by enforcement. I think this is just so spot on. I mean, this is what he put together here is really outstanding. Many holders of the XRP digital currency believe that they were unfairly harmed by the SEC's lawsuit against Ripple Labs and its two top executives in December of 2020, which crashed the value of their holdings and led to massive panic selling, suspension of XRP trading on exchanges, and $15 billion in forced losses to retail investors. $15 billion. That is what happened when the SEC. Now, Congressman Tom Emmer asked Gary Gensler some questions about this. Tom Emmer asked Gary Gensler directly, what happens when you deem it as a security? What happens to the investors? And what did Gary Gensler say? Instead of answering the actual question, he said, well, now retail investors will benefit from the protection of the SEC, right? But what Tom Emmer was actually referencing was that, no, that's not what's going to happen. They're going to suffer losses because you are going to deem an asset they are invested in as a security, which will tank the value of that asset, which will then lead to losses. Now, one thing that is certain, and what John Deaton is pointing out here, is there's something off about this whole conversation. So here, the founder of CryptoLaw petitioned the court to intervene in the case on their behalf, now of 62,000 registered XRP holders that are registered under and participating in this petitioning of the court. It was granted friend of the court status by Judge Torres of the Southern District of New York. The SEC strongly opposes letting Deaton and more than 50,000, now 62,000 other digital asset holders enter the case, arguing that all XRP holders should have known that XRP, which operates on a fully decentralized open source ledger, was a security from 2013 until the day the lawsuit was held. So this is the SEC, which is meant to protect the interests of the retail holders, right? Meant to be there to protect the interests of retail, is arguing, right? They're strongly arguing that all XRP holders, right? They should have known that XRP, which is fully decentralized on an open source ledger, right, was a security from 2013 until they filed the lawsuit in 2020, December. Now, it's getting out of control. It's outlandish. So John Deaton over here with CryptoLaw, they put together this timeline. And this timeline starts here February 8th, 2013. Now, I find this really interesting, right? So here you have the co-founder of Ethereum leads a pre-launch presentation on Ethereum, specifically on the tech and then organizationally, including this IPO. Dietz goes on to describe the legal structure of Ethereum as up in the air, but that it is going to have a few different nonprofits who are established in different parts of the world. He then describes the fundraising as crowd equity funding and says that there would not be a cap on per person and that there is no way to know who's contributing. So no KYC, no nothing. It's just raising it, right? Vitalik says the SEC is a tough thing and that we do have to be careful when talking about the Ethereum IPO. Let's get a little sample of what this might look like. Hang on a second. Let me see how this is going to open. I want to make sure it opens seamlessly. I guess it opens over to Twitter. Hang on a second. See if I can open this one up. Let me close this one. Let's turn up the volume. See if this is working first. Let's see. All right, I think I got a little bit of volume here. Let's see here. Let me see if we can open this up. It's only a minute video. We're going to get a little sampling of these different videos here. Here we go. It's a little dark, but...
The fundraiser. Yes, so the fundraiser, right. So we are thinking of starting that at some points in March. At this point, basically, we are some legal issues. We are setting the legal structure up in Switzerland. It's right now, basically the questions are exactly how long it'll take, and of course there's the question whether or not we can allow US people to participate from the US. So a lot of companies outside the US have obviously made the decision to block the US, and there are a lot of US laws that make it compelling reason to do that. But things are looking vaguely positive that we actually might be able to let people in.
You know what I find is interesting, and what he's referencing here is really, on point to this idea, this notion that, that there's something in the US they're blocking the launch and the dropping of these IPOs. So this is back in 2013. So we're talking about 8 years ago, where, they're having this conversation over this IPO, this launching of Ethereum, and whether or not it would be allowed in the US, right? And one thing that we've seen over the years is that many of these assets were in fact not allowed in the US. So all these IPOs around the world, people are taking advantage of different IPOs that were being dropped. And in the US, it wasn't allowed. And we saw a couple cases that happened as a direct result. One of the most recent was with Telegram, as they tried to drop it more as an IPO. Now, and this would be more of an ICO than an IPO, I should say, an ICO. But in this case, we have, Vitalik specifically referencing and answering questions on Ethereum. Here they're talking about IPO, no purchasing cap, anonymous buying, legal issues, potential legal issues. So there was a lot going on. Now, it's great to see how people are digging this stuff up, and this, ended up in the video library. So let's go back. Let's share, more on this video library here. I want to give a quick shout out to Farshad. Appreciate you. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. Farshad is saying, I've invested in Solo just like XRP. Super, super bullish. Solo going up, going down. There's going to be some buys. There's going to be some sells. One thing we know for certain on Solo is that there is going to be an airdrop with a snapshot coming up on December 24th. There'll be an airdrop and then a snapshot, and then the airdrop sometime in January. So, that's pretty exciting, to see that there's those types of things that are happening right now within the ecosystem, within the space. The first one coming is Vagabond. That snapshot is coming up on December 1. So, all right. So now, March 17th, we're still in 2013. Joseph Lubin, Silicon Valley Ethereum meetup, when asked, will there be a limit on the amount of a person can invest in Ethereum? He says, a person can buy from any number of different identities. We may limit the unit size of a sale just to make it easier to disguise. I don't know exactly what that means. When you're referencing something like that. For investors who want some privacy and are planning on investing several million US dollars worth, then you can do that in multiple identities. Basically saying, well, you want to be private. We want to make sure you won't, we're not going to require real world identity for the sales. So it was this idea back in 2013 that they wanted everybody to be able to transact 100% privately in their ICO, in their initial offerings. So he said, for whales, anyone planning on investing several million US dollars worth, Lubin recommends to do that in multiple identities, and says that we will ask for real world identity in the form of email addresses, just so that we can make sure. Now, think about this. Nowadays, that doesn't fly, because now everything has to be in a KYC environment. So you're not going to do it like that. It's just not going to happen. So, all right, 2014. Let's see. So we have Vitalik at a Bitcoin conference over here, and he says, In describing the upcoming initial coin offering, the ICO for Ethereum, Vitalik insisted it would be an opportunity for anyone to purchase Ether, which he said was a currency inside the Ethereum system, sort of like the XRP and Ripple. Right? This was back in 2014. So let's open this one.
So it's not the launch that we have. So we are going to start the Ether pre-sale in a couple of weeks. So the Ether pre-sale will be an opportunity for anyone to purchase Ether. For Ether is the internal currency inside of the Ethereum system, sort of like the XRP and Ripple.
Now, is there a big window of opportunity for people to get in, or is there just like a one-day opportunity?
No, it's something we're thinking of. It might be 45 days, it might be 30, it might be 60 days.
Okay, so there's plenty of time.
Sort of an incremental thing, so the earlier you go in.
The earlier you get in, the better price you get.
Right. You know?
So it's not the launch that we have. So we are going to start.
All right. So this gets interesting. I'm so glad that CryptoLaw has this whole library up. So 2017, now we're getting Jay Clayton, Senate Banking Committee confirmation hearing. Jay Clayton is questioned by Elizabeth Warren over how he would be barred from voting on the SEC on matters involving clients of his law firm. Let's see this one.
You had any conversations or other communications with Mr. Icahn since the election on November 8th?
The news reports that Carl Icahn had, I don't know. I have no knowledge that would be true. No, but I'm getting to you. After my nomination was announced, I had a bit of heads up that it was going to be announced. But after it was announced, I got a call to ask me to meet with Carl Icahn, and I met with him.
So you met. Mr. Clayton, have you had any conversations or other communications with Mr. Icahn?
To be fair on that, if he's getting nominated for a position and he still has connection with some of his clients, nominated for a position versus running for a position, then, there could be a distinction. Obviously, there's a lot more to this. And I know that CryptoLaw here has done all the background investigation to pull that up. But just to differentiate someone that runs for election versus someone who's nominated for a chair position, you're not automatically severing ties with clients from your previous business because you are either having to step down from your business in order to assume the role that you're being nominated for, versus when you're running for an election, you're knowingly planning and plotting your election and whether you're through the campaign running and then being elected. So you're already creating a separation. And at one point during your election or during the campaigning process, you're going to have to make a decision to depart from your company and move forward full-time with campaigning in order to get elected. And you have to draw that distinction and almost separate yourself from it. When you get nominated, you have to organize and structure yourself to separate after the fact. And it still is going to be a little bit different, but I just think that that's, important to reference in a position like that. We don't have to go back and watch all the videos, but these guys obviously have done a lot of background work into putting this information together here. So Consensus is building an alliance. So this is still 2017. December, Matt Corva says Joseph Lubin's company Consensus, a client of Sullivan and Cromwell, Jay Clayton's law firm, has been building an alliance with other blockchain companies, law firms, and regulators. We've had some talk with folks at the SECs referring to the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance founded in 2017, which also included Simpson, Thatcher, and Bartlett, the law firm of the SEC Director of Corporation Finance, William Hindman, the alliance mission. So let's just watch this real quick.
Ethereum technology used in enterprise. And we thought, why don't we do this with best practices in token sales again? So we started a little bit on this with the Coinbase framework last year, and the idea of the Brooklyn project is getting to a place where token sales better protect consumers. So Vinny talked about a couple of things, right? Like transparency in pre-sales, that's a big thing, right? Like no one should have a 10,000% discount. People shouldn't be flipping tokens on consumers. Things like lockups, things like restrictions on trading to reduce the chance of speculation, to reduce harm to consumers. So what we're really focused on there is building an alliance with other blockchain companies, law firms. There's a couple of interesting law schools that are interested. We hope Berkeley is going to get involved as well, and regulators. We've had some talks with some folks at the SEC about this. We've had some talks with folks in other government agencies, standards about Ethereum technology used in enterprise. And we thought, why don't we do this with best
Ethereum
practices and token sales again?
Nope.
So we started.
So here they're looking at the Ethereum Foundation. All right, so this DAI put this one up, building an alliance with other blockchain companies and law firms. This would, and so, you know, I find, you know, there's a lot going on, a lot's being orchestrated at this time. So there's reference back to, obviously, you're looking at this Wild West environment. There's a lot of voices in the space. There's a lot of competition in the space. So if you think back, I mean, you've got Bitcoin, you've got Ethereum, you've got XRP, you've got other digital assets that are vying for position. They're vying for top position. They're vying to make a determination of which platform becomes the platform, right? And so, you know, I look back and I say, you know what goes on? Think about, you know, all the documentary movies that have come out after the fact with the battle between Microsoft and Apple, right? You have Bill Gates and Jobs, and you know, you think about, you know, all the different things that happened in those early years, ramping up in the 70s and 80s, and all the inner workings, and then you go into, and so you had that wrangling of position. Think about with the VCR, you had, you know, VHS and Betamax, and vying for a position. Who's going to take the number one predominant spot? There's always this mentality and mindset that one foundation, one ecosystem has to be the winning ecosystem. And there's probably a lot of that went into this orchestration, and a lot of kind of, you know, kind of the standard operating procedure of business of that time, taken from the old way of doing things, from a competitive nature, and saying, you know what, they want to establish Ethereum as the primary mechanism that will roll out this new asset class, that all new business in the digital asset space will be built back to Ethereum, trying to compete against Bitcoin at the time. Or, you know, like Vitalik was referencing when he was comparing, what is Ethereum? Well, it's kind of like the XRP of Ripple. And he drew a reference back to what XRP was. So there's this idea that they're trying to build something to conquer the world. And, you know, even here, so if we go back, you know, to this, you know, and I find it really, it says here, the Alliance mission is to drive the use of enterprise Ethereum. So they're bringing in all these power players that are trying to promote and further this agenda, this initiative. And when you're trying to do that, when you're in a competitive mode, sometimes maybe they don't think about the ramification. They're just trying to win. And so, you know, I find it really interesting, but this space is different. The digital asset space is so different. The digital asset space is built one upon the other. All elements of this digital asset space are needed. Bitcoin was the founding principle of this new asset class. Started with Bitcoin. It's then developed and grown since that point. But one without the other, then what do you have? One of the things that Chip always talks about is, could you imagine going to the stock market and the only stock you can buy is Apple? That's it. Sorry, guys. We only have Apple stock. You can't buy any other stock. So imagine now you go to this digital asset space and you have all these ideas, all these different companies that are coming to this new ecosystem to build projects, and they all have to build on the same foundation. Do you imagine everyone building on Bitcoin? They recognize the fact that Bitcoin wasn't the best. When they came out with Ethereum, they knew that they needed something for smart contracts. That Bitcoin was one component. Ethereum was a completely different component. XRP, a completely different component. Matic with Polygon, a response to the inadequacies of Ethereum. Right? And then there's more and more and more. Flare, understanding this idea, and it hasn't fully rolled out yet, but Flare understanding this idea of interoperability. The XRP ledger is interoperable, but from a smart contract perspective, if we have Ethereum, enterprise level Ethereum that is rolling out with smart contracts, there has to be interoperability between enterprise Ethereum that's already in play and the XRP ledger. You have to create interoperability. Flare understands this interoperable nature, creating the inner workings. And so all of these different assets, all of these different companies, they all have their own mission, and they're filling in the void where one other leaves off. You can't just have Bitcoin, because it's not just about the store of value. Initially, Bitcoin rolled out and people thought banks were going to go away because it was going to be all about Bitcoin. But now we realize that it's not, because now you have stable coins. And now you have, the whole ecosystem is expanding. Now, as we start out, we're talking about what was going on in Canada. I had so many other things prepared here for today, but we see what they're talking about with their stable coins, the digital yuan. The nations are fighting for their foothold. We see the brick and mortars with the banks are still jockeying over a position, trying to maintain their supremacy, in this world, while the digital asset space is rapidly booming and expanding. And this is just one element, one notion of the inner workings of what's been happening. Now you have inner workings that are trying to squish or crush the competition by one-upping the competition because they think that their solution is supreme. That's why you have the Bitcoin maxis that run around and still think that Bitcoin is the best thing that's been invented. But Bitcoin is only one element of the whole solution, of the whole ecosystem. You can't have Bitcoin and then get rid of everything else, because then what's the purpose? It's basically just saying we just need gold. We don't need anything else. It just have gold. Forget about all the other things that go around in the world. It doesn't make any sense. So let's move on here. This is really interesting stuff. So 2018, Joseph Grunfest and Jay Clayton, Stanford Law Rock Center for Corporate Governance. Former SEC Chair Grunfest says to Jay Clayton, "You've gone after only 3 ICOs when there are hundreds that look almost identical. Why is that?" Jay Clayton says, "I think that the 3 offerings we have gone after in the 21A report make it pretty clear to people what we think is permissible and not permissible. And that if the market continues as it is, those will not be the last enforcement actions." So how can you choose 3 and then say that it's obvious? How is that obvious at that point? How does it make it clear? How do you make it clear when it's not clear what's permissible and what's not permissible? I mean, you have to come out and create the framework. And they didn't create the framework. They're just saying because of we did this, it's understood. But it's not understood, right? So then March 12th, Brad Garlinghouse explains the company's interbank messaging system for cross-border payments competing with the existing SWIFT. This is a big deal. This is like a turning point, massive turning point, where the focus is like a magnifying glass or a microscope on Ripple. Why? Because they say, who are they competing with? Well, we're competing against SWIFT. SWIFT, a conglomerate that's been around since 1974. Right? He says Ripple has over 100 customers ranging from some of the biggest banks in the world. Yes, some of the biggest banks. But now you've also put, the focus on, well, what in the world are they doing? How are they going to take on this conglomerate SWIFT that has 10,000 customers, 10,000 banks to your 100? Right? You have 1% of their customer base. SWIFT isn't going to go down quietly. Let's see what this video that DAI had put up here. Let's look.
On SWIFT, what's been the traction like? Who's come on board?
Well, it's interesting as you step back and look at this. If you and I decided we were going to send $10,000 to California today, the fastest way for us to do it would be to drive to the airport and fly it there. That's a crazy thing to think about when you're in the age of the internet and we're used to information on demand. When we think about the customers that have come on board, it's because we're solving that real problem. We're changing the nature of a payment taking days to settle to California to seconds. So we now have well over 100 customers ranging from some of the biggest banks in the world to payment providers to the Western Unions and MoneyGrams, Linlan Pay out of China.
How many banks?
It's over 100. I actually don't know the exact number now. Last time we announced it publicly, we said over 100. We'll probably announce the next one when we get to over 200. We're signing up more than a bank a week now.
Net is trying to take on Swift. What's been the traction like? Who's coming?
That's really big news. You know, I mean, he's taken on Swift. This was a big play. And this definitely put the spotlight on them. This definitely put the focus on them. They come out with that kind of announcement. And it's not just, hey, it's Vitalik, and we're talking about Ethereum. They're talking about smart contracts. And yes, there are obviously some massive power players that got behind Ethereum in the early years. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that orchestration. They brought that to the enterprise level. So there's some big players that understood the dynamics of this technology. There's some big players that understood the dynamics of the technology from Bitcoin to Ethereum. And yes, also to XRP. But, as that wrangling started, the power move started, I think that this big statement from March 12th of 2018 put the target on Ripple at that point from the SEC. Why? You have to follow the money. So now all of a sudden, Ripple has stepped into the hornet's nest. They've stepped into the hornet's nest that is the brick and mortar space that taking on Swift, taking on 10,000 banks. Now, Swift is a conglomerate cooperative that is basically owned by all of these different banks. This is their solution. This is their solution that has been in existence from 1974. It's a clique of banks. And now all of a sudden you have someone that's coming to disrupt that. Someone that has a better solution. They understand it. They know that RippleNet is a better solution. They understand the dynamics of what he said on March 12, 2018, when he was interviewed by Bloomberg. They already knew what was happening before that. But to come out and make that statement, right, taking on this Swift, all of a sudden put the target on them and change the whole conversation from that point forward. 2018 on, the conversation shifted, the focus from Bitcoin, Ethereum Foundation, all of a sudden now shifting to say, hey, you know what, these guys could be a potential threat to supremacy, to dominance in the space. Things need to happen. But there's so much more to cover. We have a lot more. We only got to 2018 on this list here. We'll cover more. I'll make sure that tomorrow night with Chip, we dig into this a little bit further. You guys are amazing. Definitely look forward to seeing you guys back on again tomorrow night. If you haven't done so already and you're brand new here, make sure you find that red subscribe button, hit the subscribe, hit the bell notifier, hit the thumbs up. That helps the algorithms over here on the chain. Everyone asks, how can we help? Well, if you want to help, do that. It definitely helps us out. And then, if you guys don't know, we do actually stream. Hang on, let me pull it up. Because if you see it, when you see it on the internet, it becomes real automatically. Whoops. Here we go. Zooming in on the wrong thing. If you go to onthechain.io, you can actually find out that we stream 6 days a week. We stream from Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the chain. If you go over to the website onthechain.io, you can pull up our podcast and say, well, I want to listen to and see the last videos that you guys did, and say, hey, you know what? I just want to see interviews. I just want to see, who did you guys interview last? Who was on the show? Well, we can go over here and we can get a good idea of some of the latest interviews. And then you can open up the interview. Let's see if it opens. There you go. And you can listen to it. You can watch it. Oh, I don't know what happened. It looks like it's broken. The watch part for the show is broken for some reason. We'll have to fix that. But anyhow, you go over here. You can subscribe. Put your email in. At the end of every show, emails go out and give you a link to the latest. And with that, That's all I've got tonight, or tonight, this morning. But we'll see you guys back on here tomorrow night, Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the chain. I'm out.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.